Lord Urron Greyjoy's pilgrimage continued, a journey intended for piety and peace, yet shadowed by the harsh realities of the world. As his ship navigated the coast of Westeros, visiting sites sacred to the drowned god, Urron sought solace in contemplation. He reflected on the vastness of the sea, the power of his god, the destiny he envisioned for House Greyjoy and the Ironborn people. Moments of quiet reflection aboard his ship, surrounded by the endless gray water, helped ease the burden of lordship and the stress accumulated from his perilous ventures into the Greenlands. He felt a renewed sense of determination, a conviction that he would succeed no matter the cost. Yet even as Urron sought spiritual strength far from home, darkness gathered back on Pike. Words reached him, carried by a frantic messenger raven or by a swift ship, of a virulent disease sweeping the Iron Isles. The bloody flux. Fear clenched his heart. His family, his wife Gurron, his young children were potentially in danger. He ordered precautions taken.
Send the missive. Isolate the capital. Lock the gates.
He ordered precautions taken, but he was leagues away, powerless to intervene directly. The pilgrimage meant to reduce stress now became a source of agonizing worry. His fears were realized in the coolest ways. Further news arrived confirming the tragedy. His wife Gurron had succumbed to the bloody flux. She was gone. The loss struck Urron with the force of a rogue wave. While their marriage may have been born of strategy, time, and shared life-forged bonds. Now alone on his pilgrimage, he faced not only the spiritual challenges of his quest, but the raw grief of loss. He was a widower, his child motherless. The drowned god demanded sacrifice, but this felt like a bitter blow from fate. Yet, even in grief, the Ironborn spirit endured. What is dead may never die, but rises harder and stronger. Urron, despite his sorrow, knew the grand plan. His ambition for the Isles must continue. The pilgrimage pressed on. Now imbued with somber determination, Urron visited the remaining holy sites. His prayer perhaps taking on a new intensity, seeking strength not just for himself but for his surviving family, seeking meaning in his loss. He completed the long journey and finally reached the destination of his pilgrimage. He sought out the priest of the drowned god, presenting himself as one who had completed the holy journey, endured loss, and remained steadfast. He received blessings for his devotion. His piety recognized, his standings enhanced by the trials he had faced. Urron encountered a skilled courtier. This man, though potentially a wildling from the north, was a follower of the drowned god and possessed useful talents. Seeing an opportunity to strengthen his court, Urron took the man into his service. During his return, or shortly after, he also learned that a potential advantageous match for one of his children had fallen through. The intended spouse had perhaps died. Opportunities like life itself were fleeting. Life required new consort, both for personal companionship and, more importantly, for strategic alliances. With Gurron gone, Urron needed a wife whose family could bolster his position. His gaze once again fell upon House Harlaw once more. An alliance with the Harlaws remained strategically vital, offering protection and influence within the Isles. A suitable match was found. Bro, what the hell, boy? Negotiations were conducted swiftly. This new marriage would secure his flanks and aid his plans for internal consolidation. During the pilgrimage, perhaps while praying at a sea-swept cliff, Urron nearly lost his prized ring. The reward from the tournament recital, it slipped, almost falling into the churning waters below. but he managed to save it at the last moment. A small incident perhaps, but maybe seen as an omen, a reminder how quickly fortunes can change. In a fleeting moment of weakness, Urron, the lynx cub that was with Urron during his journey, yearned once again for the wilds. Urron attempted to teach the boy everything he knew about the Ironborn way, but this lynx found love for the icy hitherlands of the wild north. It is believed that Urron was able to convince the boy to stay, but who knows, he may have still run away. But on to more pressing matters. A missive through a raven from his drowned priest. He has found a document, the Way of Salt, that proclaims his right to the lordship of Ormont. A long time coming with long planning, it is now the moment of Urron to strike. Despite his efforts at stewardship and the potential income from his lands, Urron found his coffers depleted. The cost of the tournament, the pilgrimage, and his maintaining his retinue, and perhaps the recent loss of income due to the plague had left him in debt. Ambition required gold. Reaving was not yet viable. Administration improvements were slow. He needed capital now to fund his next move. Reluctantly, Urron turned to an external, often distrusted source. The Iron Bank of Bravos. Taking a loan from foreign bankers was risky but necessary. He secured a small loan on the short term, enough to settle immediate debts and fund his immediate plans. His friend Simon, made during the coronation feast, died. Perhaps in a skirmish or from illness, the loss of this unexpected connection added to Urron's stress, leaving him feeling increasingly isolated, reliant only on his own strength and his new Harlaw alliance. The burdens of leadership were heavy, the path often lonely, yet the stress also perhaps hardened his resolve. With the loan secured and his alliance with Harlaw confirmed, the time for internal maneuvering had arrived. Urron had long coveted the lands held by lesser lords, particularly those controlling valuable resources or strategic positions needed to challenge the greater houses like Good Brother. His target, the holder of Orkmont, a neighboring island. He fabricated a claim, an ancient Greyjoy right, his claim that all the salt in the sea belonged to him. Marshalling his justification before the drowned god and his men, he declared his intention. Orkmont. War was declared. Urron called upon his new Harlaw allies, their combined strength now sufficient to challenge the target lord. He raised his levies, the fierce reavers of Pike answering the call to battle, eager for the spoils of victory. He ensured his forces included onagers, having learned the importance of overcoming fortifications quickly. He needed this first war to be decisive, a clear statement of his intent and capability. While Urron led his forces in the field, his new Harlaw wife proved her worth back at Pike. She managed his affairs capably, ensuring the home front remained secure and supportive of the war effort. Perhaps initially resentful of being married off for political reasons, she seemingly came to respect Urron's strength and ambition. She recognized the power he was building and aligned herself fully with the master plan, embracing the Ironborn way. Strength, respect strength. Her competence freed Urron to focus entirely on his campaign. The campaign for Orkmont began. Urron led his troops, likely crossing the turbulent waters between the islands. He sought a decisive battle, aiming to crush the enemy's forces quickly. His prowess in combat, leading from the front with Abyss in his hand, inspired his men. They met the enemy forces and battle was joined. The clash was brutal, the sound of steel, shouts, and waves filling the air. Urron and his allies prevailed, shattering the enemy's levies, and a clear warrior's victory. With the enemy field army broken, Urron moved swiftly to lay siege to the defending castle on Orkmont. Here, his foresight in preparing siege capabilities paid off. The onagers began their work battering the walls while his warriors maintained a tight blockade. The siege progressed steadily, and during the siege, news arrived his wife had given birth to a daughter, Hega, but the joy was immediately tempered. The infant was sickly, her survival uncertain. Another worry, another potential loss weighed on Urron even amidst his military success. Despite the personal worry, the siege continued. Urron maintained pressure, perhaps capturing a prisoner, a banner bearer, or a knight whom he could ransom for much needed gold. Finally, the defenders could hold out no longer. The walls were breached. The garrison surrendered. Orkmont fell to Urron Greyjoy. He enforced his demands, formally taking control of the territory. It was his first major conquest, a crucial step in his plan to consolidate the Iron Isles. Urron immediately stationed a garrison of his newly conquered territory. Securing his gains, he turned to his finances. The ransom money and perhaps spoils from the conquest allowed him to repay the loan from the Iron Bank promptly, clearing his debt and restoring his access to future credit if needed. He had expanded his power base, proven his capabilities, and managed his finances shrewdly. His neighboring vassals, even those who might have initially questioned his aggression, now viewed him with newfound respect, perhaps even fear. Urron's influence was growing. The conquest of Orkmont settled into an uneasy peace. Lord Urron spent the following months consolidating his rule over the new territory. He appointed loyal captains to oversee the garrisons, ensured taxes were collected efficiently under his stewardship principles, and made overtures to the lesser lords and small folk of the island, seeking to integrate them quickly into his growing domain. He understood that lasting power required not just conquest but effective governance. However harsh the Ironborn way might seem to others, he oversaw architectural improvements, strengthening fortifications, and improving the harbor, applying his skills as an architect to enhance the value and defensibility of his prize. His reputation grew within the Iron Isles. He was no longer just the Lord of Pike, but a proven conqueror, a lord on the rise. Whispers spread through the halls of rival keeps across the sea. Whispers of envy and fear. Urron, ever aware of the shifting tides of power, knew this increased visibility made him both stronger and more vulnerable. Rivals like the Good Brothers would watch him more closely. He needed to continue building his strength, improving his levies, training his reavers, and ensuring the loyalty of his captains. The sea remained central to his power. As Admiral, he had the freedom to take steps to improve the organization and readiness of the Iron Fleet, and with that, he was able to take men for his own right and levy ships for his own personal gain. With Orkmont secured, Urron assessed the new political map of the Isles. His victory shifted the balance of power. He now controlled a larger portion of the territory. His strategic position was stronger. He contemplated his next move. House Goodbrother remained powerful, perhaps the greatest obstacle. Direct confrontation was still likely too risky. However, lesser lords like House Drum of Old Wick or House Blacktide held lands adjacent to his own, or strategically vital islands like Eastwick. These became his next logical targets. He could potentially take key holdings like Needlefin Point or Blacktide itself, furtherly encircling his rivals, chipping away at their power base before confronting the giants. He directed his drowned man, his priest, to begin fabricating claims or researching ancient rites. The salt of the sea belongs to the Greyjoys. The justification must be found, blessed by the drowned god before the next war could begin. The cycle of consolidation, preparation, and conquest would continue. Lord Urron Greyjoy, tempered by loss, driven by ambition, and guided by his faith in the drowned god, was methodically forging his iron grip upon the Isles. What was dead may never die. His ambition, tested and scarred, had risen harder and stronger.